Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, air, restoration, and flood services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Trebas Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
TSA workers here in San Diego and across the nation are missing their second paycheck this week thanks to a partial government shutdown. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Some aren't showing up for work, leading to long lines at some airports this week. KPBS reporter John Carroll checked out the situation at San Diego International Airport.
A quick glance in Terminal 1 gives no hint that anything is wrong. The old adage about being able to fire off a cannon and not hit anybody comes to mind. It's 11:41 on this Thursday morning, and right now things are looking pretty good. Just a 5-minute wait whether you're in the TSA pre-check or in the general line. But the question is this the calm before the storm?
There's a lot of depression going along, a lot of angst.
That's Robert Mack. He's a lead transportation officer for TSA in San Diego. The workers here are represented by the American Federation of Government Employees. He says his colleagues still haven't recovered from the last government shutdown, and now this, 2 paychecks missed. Mack says agents across the country are starting to call in sick, and about 300 have quit since the shutdown began. Mack says we could see the same thing here.
If I can't put money in my gas tank, if I can't put food in my belly, if I can't feed my kids, I can't put clothes on their back and a roof over their head, then why am I still here?
The hands of the San Diego County Regional Airport Authority are pretty much tied, as this is an issue for Congress to decide. They released a statement today reminding passengers to check their flight status and arrive at least 2 hours prior to departure. They acknowledge operations are, at times, affected by the federal government shutdown. So are the lives of TSA workers.
It absolutely doesn't make sense. Why am I being punished for another part of the agency? That makes absolutely no sense. Everybody's frustrated with this. This is, yeah, there will be people leaving.
We found one passenger who'd flown in this morning from El Paso. The situation with TSA there seems to mirror things here so far.
I would say roughly like 2-3 minutes. I had to go back again because there was a problem with my shoes.
Back to that airport statement. It ends saying their focus remains on ensuring a safe and efficient experience. Max says he's worried both of those priorities will be harder and harder to meet unless agents start getting paid again, and soon. At San Diego International Airport, John Carroll, KPBS News.
The California DMV says the federal government is requiring them to cancel roughly 13,000 commercial licenses for truck drivers who are not U.S. citizens or lawful permanent residents. It applies to drivers with some work visas, refugees or asylum seekers, and DACA recipients. This comes after a federal nationwide audit that found in California alone more than 25% of these licenses were improperly issued. Advocates for immigrant drivers say the new federal rule means fear and uncertainty.
And we feel that the administration has jumped the gun. They have arbitrarily, and we feel discriminatorily, just blanketly denied everyone access to a livelihood without any data, without any substance.
And the DMV says a recent court ruling lets affected individuals apply for new licenses, but the federal rule bars the agency from processing them. Thousands of immigrant truck drivers still have valid licenses. The DMV says those will remain valid until their expiration date, but truckers will not be able to renew, replace, or change them. Hundreds of San Diegans have been arrested by ICE since the Trump administration launched its mass deportation campaign. A local family is opening up about their experiences and hopes it brings comfort to others going through similar situations. And we're going to have that story for you in just a few minutes.
Well, we have a very warm weather pattern underway. At night, not so obvious, but daytime weather is steamy out there. Overnight tonight, we'll get down to 55 at San Diego, 55 El Cajon, Mount Laguna 44, and a little cooler up into Oceanside, getting some relief. But May-like warmth holds on. Heat advisories continue through Friday for San Diego, right up to the beaches. There will also be some more record-challenging highs, especially in places like Ramona. We'll look at the details coming up.
Iran's new supreme leader is vowing to keep the Strait of Hormuz shut. With the strait closed, oil prices are again rising on day 13 of the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran. Brian Abel brings us the latest from Washington.
In an alleged first statement by Iran's new supreme leader, read by state-run media, Mujtaba Khamenei says the Strait of Hormuz will stay closed as a, quote, tool of pressure. Iran has attacked ships attempting to pass through the strait and is escalating its attacks on nearby ports like Bahrain, crippling international trade and sending the global price of oil skyrocketing past $100 a barrel. That's despite an agreement by 32 countries for a historic release of 400 million barrels of global reserves. The critical oil shipping route at a near standstill traditionally carries a fifth of the world's oil shipments. The U.S. Energy Secretary says U.S. military escorts of ships through the passage will eventually begin.
It'll happen relatively soon, but it can't happen now. We're simply not ready. All of our military assets right now are focused on destroying Iran's offensive capabilities and the manufacturing industry that supplies their offensive capabilities.
Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump declaring victory against Iran during a Wednesday evening speech in Kentucky.
You know, you never like to say too early you won. We won. We won the bet. In the first hour, it was over.
The statement said to be from Iran's new Ayatollah, promising retribution.
We will not forget. We will revenge on the blood of your martyrs.
In Washington, Brian Abel, KPBS News.
Well, here's a look at our local gas prices today. The average price of gas in San Diego County hit $5.39 per gallon. That is the highest average since November 1st. It's up nearly 4 cents just from yesterday and 50 cents higher than just a week ago. The price of gas has increased more than 70 cents over the last 22 days. Meanwhile, federal authorities are warning about possible retaliatory drone strikes by Iran. Our media partner KGTV spoke to a former assistant secretary with the Department of Homeland Security about the weight that threat carries for San Diego.
That their drones are quite destructive, that our capabilities to be able to detect and stop those drones are pretty minimal. That's why they're so effective in war. Now, the reason for it, again, is not because we think something is imminent or planned, but because the way that our layered defense system works, we really need state and local law enforcement to be the eyes and ears on the ground.
And the FBI has warned Iran could attempt a surprise drone attack from a vessel in the Pacific coast. Governor Newsom says he is aware of the unverified claims.
Drone issues have been always top of mind, and we've assembled some work groups specifically around those concerns. But that's all I'll share at the moment. I have nothing more insightful beyond just what's been reported and how we're transmitting what we know to our local partners, which is critical.
And it is still unknown which parts of California are included in the alleged threat. Stadiums and arenas have long relied on volunteer organizations to run concession stands, but for this week's Why It Matters segment, Voice of San Diego Scott Lewis explains how federal prosecutors got two men to admit their charity was fake, and they pocketed the money instead.
The Padres continued an old tradition of allowing nonprofits to operate concession stands with volunteers. A volunteer group would run them in exchange for about 10% of the money collected at the stands. It was a win-win. A community benefit organization would get much-needed money, and stadium operators were able to staff concession stands even with the irregular scheduling of games and events. But someone took advantage of it. In August 2023, Voice of San Diego revealed what appeared to be a fake charity operating concession stands at Petco Park. Chula Vista Fast Pitch was the biggest operator at Petco Park. And when you asked them and their volunteers where that money was going, they said it was going to Chula Vista Fast Pitch, a youth softball league. But no such league existed. This week, the two men who ran the fake charity and paid supposed volunteers under the table and below minimum wage admitted to collecting $3.75 million meant for youth softball, mostly at Petco Park, but some at Snapdragon Stadium. And they put $2 million of that into their pockets. Martin Rebollo and Noli Alarde both pleaded guilty to wire fraud conspiracy, which carries a maximum sentence of 20 years. After our reporting began more than 2 years ago, the operators at Petco Park and Snapdragon Stadium kicked Chula Vista Fast Pitch out of their facilities. But this system is in place in hundreds of stadiums and arenas across the country, and those are often publicly owned facilities. The city of San Diego owns Petco Park. San Diego State University owns Snapdragon Stadium. And there is very little oversight ensuring the nonprofits taking the revenue from big events are legitimate charities, and no major reforms have taken place, meaning workers may still be getting paid below minimum wage and under the table. Legitimate charities may be losing opportunities to those scams. For Voice San Diego, I'm Scott Lewis, and that's why it matters.
And Voice of San Diego is one of our partners for the Public Matters Initiative. You can learn more at kpbs.org/Public Matters. It's common for California farmers to spray some crops with pesticides containing synthetic forever chemicals known as PFAs. A new analysis out this week shows produce makes it to grocery stores with that residue on them. KPBS environment reporter Tammy Murga says some fruit samples had more PFAs than others.
Forever chemicals, commonly known as PFAS, are in many products. Manufacturers prefer them because they're heat-resistant and repel water and oil. But studies have shown exposure to these human-made chemicals increases the risk of cancer. A new analysis by the Environmental Working Group shows some of them are also ending up on the produce we eat.
Most consumers do not expect to walk into the grocery store and buy a peach or a nectarine or a strawberry that is contaminated with PFAS, the forever chemical.
Bernadette Del Chiaro is with the group. She says they reviewed the state's latest pesticide residue data. They found that nearly 40% of non-organic fruits and vegetables grown in California had traces of PFAS pesticides on them.
It's really in staggering rates on nectarines, plums, and peaches. So we're talking upwards of 90% of samples.
Varun Subramanian is also with the Environmental Working Group. He says the findings are concerning because California grows more than half of the fruits and vegetables consumed in the U.S. The state's pesticide agency told KPBS it reviewed the working group's report. It said, in part, that the report examines detections of PFAS pesticides. A spokesperson said, quote, "This is important because the detection alone of a pesticide active ingredient or breakdown product does not necessarily mean there's a health risk." The working group recommends buying organic when possible and washing produce thoroughly before eating. Tammy Murga, KPBS News.
ICE agents arrested hundreds of San Diegans since President Trump launched his mass deportation campaign. One family is sharing their own detention story with KPBS reporter Gustavo Solis, hoping others going through this situation find a bit of comfort.
It happened so fast. On the morning of February 2nd, Alejandro Olivo and his son Brian are in Del Mar, just arriving at a landscaping job.
If you guys have a warrant, you guys could easily come to my house if you guys have a warrant.
Brian starts recording while Alejandro calls his wife, Veronica. ICE agents smash the truck's window.
Do not break the window, sir. What are y'all doing?
And to Veronica, it sounds like a gunshot.
Fue un impacto demasiado terriblemente fuerte, porque justamente cuando él me estaba hablando, pues fue cuando le rompieron la ventana.
The phone goes dead. All Veronica knows is that ICE agents have taken her husband and son. Alejandro and Brian are among the thousands of San Diegans who have been arrested by ICE during the mass deportation campaign. And what happened to the Olivo family over the next few weeks was once unthinkable, but is now commonplace.
Muchos momentos en que lloramos y gritamos, sentíamos que, pues, por lo que podía pasar y todo eso, en ningún momento, pues, de verdad nos rendimos.
Veronica says that those weeks were filled with fear and anger, but the family never gave up. And neither men are U.S. citizens. Alejandro is undocumented, but he's also a father of 5, has lived and worked in the U.S. for decades, and owns his own business. Brian has legal status through the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, also known as DACA. Neither of them have violent criminal records. The first thing Veronica did after the arrest was call everyone she knew.
Creo que en una hora la casa ya estaba como llena de personas. Todo el día la casa estuvo llena de personas.
Within an hour, the house was full of people ready to help. They called lawyers, brought food, even donated money to cover the rent and utility bills. Each member of the family dealt with it in their own way. Beckham's, the second oldest son, says that he was initially in shock.
I pulled myself together. I saw myself kind of as maybe the head of the family, since our actual head of the family was not with us. And I knew I had to step it up and be that pillar of support for my family.
He set up a GoFundMe campaign that so far has raised almost $20,000. His sister, Charlene, felt her father's absence at night.
I didn't feel safe. Every time he was home, he'll hear like any little noise, and it'll make me feel safe, because I'm just like, if my dad's hearing it, he's gonna tell us.
Charlene is a sophomore at Lincoln High School. She reached out to a teacher who has helped other students impacted by ICE enforcement. Word of her dad's detention got around, and before the family knew it, strangers were dropping off donated food. All that support helped Ian, the family's second youngest.
And it felt really good to know that some people actually did care about us at that time.
Ian says that he struggled to process his emotions.
I was sad. I didn't cry, but I was still sad. And it felt something like just kind of like broke inside me, because my dad, my brother, they're like great people. My dad's the most greatest person I know. He's the greatest dad I know.
Brian was released within a day, after ICE agents realized he's a DACA recipient and protected from deportation. When he got out, helping his mom and siblings felt like a full-time job. One of the few distractions was watching his favorite soccer team, San Diego FC.
Just being able to yell, getting that relief out, just being happy the whole 4 hours I'm here, 5 hours that we spent here at the tailgate. I'm just happy to be here,
On his first game back, a small group of supporters turned their back during the national anthem. It was a small act of protest against ICE enforcement in San Diego. Brian did not turn around. He loves this country, and as a DACA recipient, feels the need to show his support as much as possible. But on that day, one line of the anthem nearly broke him.
I love singing the anthem, and I cry most of the time. But this time when that part was like the land of the free, I'm like, my dad's not even free, and I can't. That's the only sentence out of the whole anthem that I kind of did put my head down, and I wanted to start crying for sure. It was because my dad's not free.
After a month of detention, a lawyer secured Alejandro's release. A judge cited reasons why he should not be detained. He runs a business, contributes to the community, and is raising multiple U.S. citizen children. Alejandro was working the day KPBS visited the family. Veronica says he still doesn't like to talk about his time in detention too much. When he came home, she instantly noticed how much weight he'd lost, and his face was very pale, especially for a landscaper who's used to working in the sun. Veronica wants other families going through this to know that they are not alone, that they shouldn't be afraid to ask for help.
Y estamos más fuertes que nunca para poder salir adelante.
She says the Olivo family is stronger than ever. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
On Saturday, a new exhibit opens at the California Center for the Arts in Escondido, a magical forest with creatures made from Persian rugs. KPBS arts reporter Julia Dixon-Evans says it's inspired by the artist's childhood in Iran.
Mariam Bayat spent her childhood summers in Iran's bucolic north.
It's a place beside the sea, full of trees and breezes and wild animals.
And exploring her father's rug shop in Tehran.
My childhood was running through these stalks of rugs and the light coming through and the smell. You know, I think you're feeling this, you're sensing the smell right now here.
Now, Baya uses old Persian rugs as a canvas. She paints new designs and sculpts them into towering cypress trees with bold pink blossoms, colorful flowers, a clearing for a tea party, whimsical horses, birds, and a fox, a fountain inspired by Tehran. Everything is refashioned from rugs. She adds her own stories to those of the women who first wove the rugs.
They used to sit down and weave, thinking of their life, their story. All of the rugs had a story behind it. So they would just sit, and sometimes if they are sad, when they're sad, their hands affects how they weave the rug.
The exhibit, Unrolling Paradise, coincides with the Persian celebration of spring, Nowruz, happening amid war in the Middle East.
This year, it's very different. Yes, it's hopeful, it's sad, it's full of mixed feelings. It's a Nowruz, so it's a new in everything, you know. It's a start. It's a new start.
Julia Dixon-Evans, KPBS News.
That is just terrific. And Julia is also the host of the KPBS Arts podcast, The Finest. And a new episode is out just today. It's all about the matcha boom, how a centuries-old tradition became a global craze. You can listen now at kpbs.org/thefinest or wherever you get your podcasts.
Record-challenging highs still with us here. We're dealing with a lot of heat, persistently hot through the weekend, and inland areas are going to be really steamy this weekend. But we're going to stay very warm and dry through next week. No rain anywhere around here. Tonight we'll get down to 55. Nighttime weather's delightful. Clear skies, cool at night, but daytime weather, we're warming back up. And a heat advisory is in effect for most of the more populated portions here of San Diego County, coastal Orange County as well, running until 8 p.m. Friday. So very steamy, more like May instead of March here on Friday afternoon. Hot weather is with us. It's really steamy. 94 in El Cajon, 91 Escondido and Ramona. Borrego Springs, 94. Along the coastline will be in the low 80s, which is very warm for this time of the year. Oceanside, San Diego, 82. Chula Vista, 83 degrees. When it comes to record-challenging heat, Ramona is on our list here a few times. So the record for March 13th in Ramona is 89 from 1997. We'll probably break that record. We also expect to break a record up in Burbank for warmest March 13th, probably breaking a record in Reno, Nevada. Phoenix should tie a record, so we're not alone with the heat here. Saturday, still very steamy out there, especially just inland. And the May-like warmth will continue here in mid-March through next week. And if we look specifically at Sunday, the records for March 15th, Ramona, record high 86 from 2015. We'll be almost as warm as we were, real close to where we were 11 years ago on March 15th. But other areas likely to break record highs in Sacramento and Phoenix, and probably tying a record high there in San Jose. So the Southwest really, really warm. Coastal forecast, our warmest time is going to be Friday. And then we get a little relief, just a hint of relief from the Pacific. Low 70s then Sunday and Monday. We'll look forward to that. But again, warm into Tuesday. Inland areas, you're really steamy. Low 90s Friday, back into the upper 80s on Tuesday with temps temporarily backing off a little, but it stays very warm for this time of the year. In the mountains here, you got some elevation on your side, so it's going to be a little more comfortable, but we really warm up into Tuesday. And in the deserts, this is where the heat will be most impressive. Consistently in the 90s. We may make a run on Tuesday to 102. So this is like summer heat building in some cases. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Jeff Cornish for KPBS News.
NASCAR is coming to Naval Air Station North Island for a weekend of races this June, and it will be the first such event held on a military base. KPBS military reporter Andrew Dyer says it will also be NASCAR's first ever race in San Diego.
Your driver is the 7-car Daniel Suarez.
Sailors cheer as NASCAR Cup Series drivers are assigned to Navy units. Each driver will represent a unit for the race weekend. Drivers Christopher Bell, Ty Dillon, Ryan Preece, and Jess Iwuji talked with sailors at the event. Former NFL quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick hosted the draft. He says everyone at NASCAR is looking forward to the Anduril 250 race in June.
We're all very excited to have a race on the base here and telling all the different people at the base how appreciative we are of them and how excited these drivers are to come and show their talents on the base.
The track is almost 3.5 miles long. Organizers say that makes it the longest in NASCAR's history. And it's not all left turns. It's a street course that takes drivers from the base's asphalt surface streets to the concrete flight line. Amy Lupo is with NASCAR. She's working with the Navy to make sure the track is safe.
So we've been working for a very long time with the Navy to put this race together, and we've done a LiDAR scan of the track and turned it into a racing simulator to which several of our NASCAR Cup Series drivers have already tried. So we've made some adjustments to the course based on that.
This will be the first NASCAR race weekend in San Diego. Ty Dillon drives the number 10 Chevrolet. He says drivers have a special relationship with fans.
I think what's so special about NASCAR is the passion behind it. Our fans are second to none. They love their drivers, they love what the drivers represent, and they follow it with a fierce passion. So hopefully bringing our NASCAR fans on base, they're going to also show so much love to everyone here and what they do for us.
Race weekend starts Friday, June 19th with a Craftsman Truck Series race open exclusively to military families. Saturdays and Sundays races are open to the public. Tickets are still available for Saturday. Sunday's race is sold out, but there's a wait list. NASCAR and the Navy expect 50,000 spectators each race day.
He's got him hooked.
Andrew Dyer, KPBS News.
Check out tonight's stories at kpbs.org. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Thanks for joining us.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, air, restoration, and flood services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.